Welcome to the Farmizen show, where we uncover the delicious interplay between food, farming, and wellness, shaping a brighter, healthier tomorrow. Better for farmers, better for the planet, better for you. Let's dig in. Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Farmizen show. And today we have Praveen with us here, who has had a very interesting journey. I mean, right from doing a edtech startup to working for NGOs, doing stuff across India, to going back to his roots as a dairy farmer, as an organic dairy farmer. And his family has been into dairy farming for almost 7 generations now. And his farm is very near Chennai, like hardly 70 odd kilometers from Chennai. So we are going to talk about a lot of interesting things today. Some of them may be a little controversial as well. So we are going to talk about this whole thing about, cows, and a lot of people are getting turned off from dairy farming as well, right? Because we are thinking of, okay, all of these methane emissions due to cows. So we are all turning vegan and things like that. So we're going to talk a lot about that as well. And we're going to explore the role of cows in organic farming. So I'm going to ask Praveen, is it possible at all to do organic farming without cows? And we are going to possibly talk about some numbers as well. So welcome, Praveen. So excited to have you here.
Hey, Shameek, it's really a pleasure to be on your podcast today. And I'm looking forward to all those questions and the controversial answers as well.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So are cows good for the planet or bad for the planet? Let's get right down to it.
Okay. So, see, it depends on how you go about the entire, look at the entire, this thing, the dairy farming as such. In India, we don't have industrialized dairy farming. Every farmer has one or two cows. And most of the dairy farms are small dairy farms, small holding dairy farms, which is like mine, where we have about 17 to 20 cows on an average. Right. And these dairy farms are built into the agroeconomy of India. When I say what that means is, whatever is the agri waste that we generate, be it the outer shell of your dal, be it the hay, which is the residue of paddy, be it when you polish the rice, what you get, the powder, the bran, right? All these would have gone into either landfills or incinerators, right? And these are not fed to the cow. And what does the cow do? They take the organic matter, feeding it to the cow, and which generates manure, and that goes back into the soil. Right? Whatever would have been otherwise burnt or left to decompose, which generates methane, by the way. Any form of decomposition generates methane. So now with respect to a cow, and the cow converts this into manure, and that goes back into the soil. So now what we're doing is we're taking carbon which would have otherwise been sent off into the atmosphere, and we're putting it back into the soil. And that's the very definition of carbon sequestration. So yes, if you look at the broader picture, cows are good. But if you want to only look at their burp and then say they produce methane, yes, it is bad. So it depends on how wide your entire view of the problem is.
Got it. And I mean, what's your take on all of this? So a lot of people are turning vegan, etc. Right? So, like if you turn vegan, and one of the reasons for people turning vegan is of course the whole animal cruelty and all of those angles as well, right? But there's the other angle, which is that people say that animal agriculture is not environment friendly, so it's good not to eat animal products, right? Milk, cheese, all of those included as well, right? So how do you reconcile these two kind of slightly opposing things? On the one hand, you are saying that cows are doing a great job by actually trapping carbon back into the soil, right? I mean, from what I hear,
Yes.
it looks to me like basically like a very efficient composting mechanism, which is like pretty much almost overnight composting they are doing, right? Just taking it, quickly creating this tons of cow dung, which gets added back to the soil. So that's the good part about it. And the bad part seems to be, I think two things. One is the methane emissions, which you kind of already addressed, that yes, there are methane emissions that happens, the burps and farts and whatever. But the other thing is also that a lot of dairy that's happening in the world, across the world, possibly not in India, but across the world, basically forests are getting cleared up, right? And then lots and lots of cows are getting grown, cultivated in those areas. So that seems to be one issue. Well, I mean, just wanted to know your take on that. The whole veganism versus our traditional way of farming, kind of sustainable farming with the help of cows. How do you reconcile these two?
I would not deny the cruelty towards the cow that happens in industrialized farming. Right. I would not deny that. But then again, India doesn't have the concept of not a widespread concept of industrialized farming, dairy farming. So when you look at all the data that is submitted, they're all from the West. When they talk about how the cows are treated, how the calves are separated, how the calves are, kept from the mother and the mother doesn't care for the calf, and then the milk is only exclusively used for human consumption. All these are true when it comes to an industrialized, when you want the cow to be a money spinning machine, when you look at her as a money spinning machine alone, which is what happens in an industrialized farming. Yes, that is true. Right. But we are very far from it. Right. Rambo, my bull. Right. Every animal of ours is named. We take care of the animals. We have a cow who doesn't like me, and I call her Kalashni cow. So when we're doing things like that, in a small scale farm, that is not what happens. The cow, the milk is given to the calf, and then the milk, whatever the excess milk that the cow produces, is used for human consumption. There is no abuse or ill treat of animals. That doesn't happen on a small farm. Because from a farmer perspective, he needs the cow because that is what is going to help him offset the fertilizer cost. And any form of human intervention on the land there is some amount of cruelty. So when you farm, you're going to kill every snake on your land. You're going to kill the rats, the porcupines. It happens. You cannot not do that. It's like a consequence of farming itself. Like there is some amount of cruelty. I will definitely agree to that. But that's the
Actually,
only
I
thing you're
think,
going to get
I mean,
your
you could
food.
argue that every act of eating, there is some level of cruelty associated with
Yes,
that, right? That is one argument that
every
can always be made. For
yeah,
example,
every act is
you're cutting off a bunch of palak and you are eating it, right? There is a little bit, some level of killing which happens, right?
see, that's a very slippery slope,
And
right?
in fact, see,
We shouldn't go there.
I know.
It's a
Right,
very
right,
slippery
right.
slope.
Yeah. So, like one example that I love giving is what goes on under the soil itself. And I always tell that under the soil, what's happening is this whole soil food web. What is the soil food web? It is nothing but actually like a Mahabharata which is happening under the soil. And what is that
Right.
Mahabharata? It's basically an act of somebody eating somebody else and then getting eaten by somebody else. That's what's happening under
Right.
the soil. A protozoa is
Correct.
getting eaten by a bacteria or a nematode. Then the nematode is getting eaten by an arthropod, which is then getting eaten by a bird, and then the bird shit dumps onto the ground, right? And
Right.
this act of eating and getting eaten under the soil is actually what makes food available to us. If this was not
Correct.
there, we would not be able to unlock a lot of nutrients which are tied up in our rocks, for example, which is there in
Correct.
soil in an immobilized form, not available
Correct.
to the plants at all. So I mean, we have to obviously take a nuanced view about this whole thing around eating and cruelty and all of that stuff. So yeah, so let's not get there because there are a lot of different arguments which can be made. But so far, what I'm essentially hearing from you is that yes, industrial scale dairy farming is probably bad from multiple angles. It's probably bad from the environment angle. You are clearing up grasslands and you are doing that. It's probably bad from maybe even the consumer health angle because you are not necessarily giving it the best of feed possible. The cows are kind of under stress. And it's bad from an animal cruelty perspective as well. Because typically in all sorts of large scale industrial farming, the animals are not treated as beings. They're treated basically as almost like machines in a factory, which is not how things would want to get treated. But on the other hand, what I'm hearing from you is that dairy, when done at a small scale, either done in terms of, okay, 15, 20 cows, a small farmer who's taking care of the cows, right? Who's kind of treating them as almost an extended family. As a situation where there are one or two cows that a farmer has, maybe he does not even sell the milk, maybe he just consumes the milk himself, right? And he uses the cows as animals, which basically help him in doing farming, right? For the cow dung.
Correct.
That is probably very environment friendly. So that's a very interesting topic actually, given, and this is something that most of us don't realize. See, we always talk about things that are future of farming is basically large scale farming, where we create these really, really massive farms and we grow stuff. But if you look at the data, the world is being
It's the
fed
other
right
way.
now by small scale farmers. Small
Correct.
scale farmers are actually feeding the world. It is not those 200-acre
Large
farms,
farmers.
500-acre, 1,000-acre farms which are doing it. So now let's talk a little bit about this whole. How does a small farmer? How does he really benefit from cows in terms of farming? Can you explain that a little bit more?
Okay. See, so I know that if you want to start an organic farm, the biggest investment, recurring investment that you're going to have is some sort of manure or compost which goes into the soil, which improves the soil quality. Because you keep harvesting, that basically means something is taken out of the soil and then that comes out as a food for you and then that is sold. So the soil needs to be constantly replenished. Right. And in this day and age, finding farmyard manure is a very, very tricky situation. I know that because there are I get calls from Haryana and Orissa asking if I can send them farmyard manure. And the question is that is counterproductive. I mean, you will be paying so much fuel sending it all the way there. Why don't you source from your local farmers? The answer being, even Bangalore, for the matter of fact, answer being, it's not easily available. It's not easily available because people have stopped creating farmyard manure. Right. The only way you can guarantee that you have a steady source.
It's kind of crazy. It's kind of crazy the fact that like this was the most common thing earlier, like 20 years back, 30 years back. I mean, yeah, gobar, cow dung, it's like the most common thing which is there. And any farmer would think of, okay, I'll have gobar. And what else should I do? That would be the thing. It's shocking. It's shocking. And I actually see a change even now versus like 8-9 years back in terms of that's sheerly how much like the availability of cow dung. I mean, in some areas where we are trying to do some work with smaller farmers, etc., it's a massive struggle. And it's not just the cost part of it. In places like Bangalore, initially I was thinking, okay, we are doing farming in and around Bangalore. That's why it's so costly. We have gone to Gulbarga and we have seen that the cost of farmyard manure there seems to be like almost twice that of what we are getting it at Bangalore. Because many small farmers, dry land farming, not irrigated land, and they just don't have cows anymore.
Correct.
So I think it's a real problem.
We created that situation. It was a man-made situation. So basically, we had a beautiful ecosystem where cows were part of the agro economy of India for hundreds of years. We wanted a lot of milk. So what we did, we started introducing HF Jersey bulls in India, and then we started crossing our native cows with HF and Jersey bulls. Right, with artificial insemination. So basically, what happens is cows used to be sturdy. We didn't have the issue of foot and mouth disease prevalent in India. Right, we didn't have the HS, we didn't have black water, which is prevalent. We didn't have any of those diseases. So by bringing in foreign breeds to India, which were not, they're very good. They're very good in Norway. They're very good in wherever they are from, in UK and things like that. But in India, the tropical climate, they were not able to really adapt. So basically, we kind of destroyed the gene pool of the cows that were there in India, which were easy to manage, which were easy to maintain. The local farmer couldn't afford to maintain a cow which had, a little bit of HF and Jersey genes in it, because they needed more medication, they needed better care, they needed better infrastructure to maintain them. Indian cows are hardy. They can handle the sun, the heat, the torrential rain, flooding, they will manage. So this became a problem. We created a problem wherein the farmers are not able to maintain cows because the cows are not hardy anymore.
Okay. Like so for so I'm not sure I understand that completely, because is it not easy to find desi cows? I mean, why aren't farmers just going ahead and getting desi cows and just keeping them? They are the hardy ones, right? So is it that farmers are not, because see, farmers are also very smart. We should not assume that they are taking these wrong decisions. So if a farmer has decided not to keep a cow anymore, because I don't, so one is, why do farmers not keep cows anymore? Is it because it's more work? Because if it makes economic sense, they would have automatically kept these cows, right? So why are farmers not keeping these cows anymore? What's going on there?
Okay, this is going to be a very loaded answer. So we solve problems independently. We never looked at the holistic problem. Right? When we created the paddy grain I'm talking about, 51. I think now we have something called the Tirupati Gundu, like, different, all these different types of paddy grains. What we forgot was they're fast growing. There is not enough stock. The stock used to be fed to the cows. The hay used to be fed to the cows. Like the traditional variety created a lot of stock, a lot of hay. The new variety doesn't create enough stock because they grow faster. The traditional variety of paddy grain used to be 4 months. Now you grow paddy in, like, I think 110 days. So what happens is we created a scarcity of fodder for the cattle. The reason being, we wanted faster growing, we wanted better cycling, better economics. The numbers have to match. But what we basically did was, it also required more inputs from in terms of water, more inputs in terms of fertilizer, more inputs in terms of pesticides and weedicide. And that caused a scarcity of feed for the cows. Right. Now, initially, the hay used to be rich. Now the hay is worthless in the sense of nutrient. Right. So what do we do now? And then the cows have been genetically reduced their vitality, the viability of it. So now you realize everything is adding up. We are creating agricultural produce which is better for packaging. We are producing, we are doing GMO, which is better for, a particular kind of pesticide. We are not worried about, what will the cow eat. When we were planning this 100 years ago, we were looking at what will the cow eat. How we are not looking at that. We are looking at, will a shrink lab suit it better? Will it sit in a refrigerator for 17 days or 45 days, right? So that became, even, I'm not talking about GMO alone, even the selective breeding has become like that. We've been selectively breeding for eons, Indians, right? But now selective breeding is not about will it serve the larger ecosystem. It is about will it be convenient for somebody to cut it in a particular shape.
Right. It's like a classic case of trying to optimize one variable while neglecting that it's a complex system with many variables all interrelated together. And by trying to optimize only X, and then Y and X are related together and Y impacts X. So we have just tried to optimize X. Thereby, the overall system is actually becoming a lot more unstable and it's not working for anybody, right? So it's suboptimal for everybody because everybody is trying to optimize just for one thing. We have forgotten that soil fertility and the methods of growing is also kind of links into this. If you have hide variety of seeds, they will need faster nitrogen release. So if faster nitrogen release, you will actually get better results from urea versus from using cow dung for some time. So this is like a whole cycle. Like you screw up one thing, everything else kind of gets screwed. Right. So I think basically what I'm hearing is that is one of the reasons why farmers have stopped keeping cows. Many of them have stopped keeping cows because other things that have happened. And you talked about a very interesting thing which I had no idea about, which was this whole fodder stuff, that the seeds that we are growing now, those don't keep enough high quality fodder left for the cows. It was very interesting. I had no idea about that. So when I collect hay for my cows, I make sure I collect it from the traditional variety of paddy, not from the hybridized paddy, only because of nutrients. And very few people grow it, It's slowly, it's a dying thing for us here. Now, in terms of, let's talk a little bit about this whole gene pool issue that you mentioned. Now, so explain to us how this thing works. Like, so there are cows which are pure breed, pure desi breed. Are there enough of those cows also around, or is it like there is too much of this mixture of these gene pool which has happened and not enough numbers of pure breed cows or bulls are available? How is that situation? So I have to give this thing a disclosure. I'm not a scientist, right? So I understand how cows react to environment, and I'm going to talk only from that perspective, right? If you look at cows, cows will have long ears, very, very long ears, right? And these are cows which generally, the long ears is to dissipate heat so that they don't heat up as a whole. The long ears help it to release all the heat. That's the reason why they have long ears, larger nostrils so that they can push heat out,
Right? Their skins are much better suited for our environment. Right? That is what the desi cows. Yes, we do have desi cows. There are a lot of organizations which are coming up protecting desi cows. There is a beautiful organization in Tamil Nadu which protects the Kangium breed. Kangium is a breed of cows from Tamil Nadu, and there's another one in Madurai which does another breed for Pulyakulam. And there's a center for the Gir breed and conservation. There are places in India, but it also economics doesn't really is not on the farmer side, not on the dairy farmer side, because a mixed breed cow will cost, let's say, 30,000 to 40,000, and she will yield about 7 liters of milk a day. Right. The same, if I have to get a pure breed, let's say gear, which I have, they will cost me 70, 80,000. The price will almost double. Why would a farmer buy a pure breed cow? Right. So the economics. So I am selling this like if I was a regular farmer. I make ghee and I sell. If a regular farmer will sell milk to the society. Society gives you 30 rupees per liter. 30 to 40, but average is about 32. 32 rupees is what a farmer gets from a society. And the cow gives 7 liters. 2 liters the farmer will keep for his own consumption. 5 liters is what he's selling. So he is making about 160 rupees of revenue, out of which 60 to 70 goes back into feeding the cow. So, and then the cow doesn't produce milk throughout the year. She will produce milk for 8 months in a year. And if something goes wrong, there is money that is spent on the medical expenses of the cow, the vaccination, the insurance. So you get 100 rupees from a cow on an average if you follow the traditional farming method. But you can grow vegetables and get far more money from vegetables, selling vegetables or growing vegetables. Right. The economics is not in the favor of the farmer right now. The feed costs have gone up, the hay gone up because there is very little hay and there is more demand for it. And it's difficult as a dairy farmer to keep all these things in mind. Dairy was supposed to assist the farmers get additional income, produce manure, which will go back into the soil. And the dairy, the cows will feed on agro waste from the farm. This used to be a beautiful system. Now that's changed. We've changed it. We literally changed it upside down. Now the farmer has to put an effort to keep the cow. Right. And there is not, in Tamil Nadu, where I'm from, we have amazing medical facility for cattle and the veterinary care, right? But if you don't have that, let's say, I'm sure your listeners are from different parts of the country. If you don't have that, then it becomes a problem again to maintain your cow, because cow do need regular medical care. You need to vaccinate them to prevent them from getting foot and mouth disease and other diseases that I spoke about earlier. So the system is rigged against the farmer to keep a cow, right? And economics won't work out there.
The economics start working out once you are actually using the cow, how it's supposed to be as part of that integrated farming system, where yes, you are actually using the manure. And then suddenly, because when I was trying to do the numbers, and maybe you can take a shot at doing the numbers for our listeners, but farmyard manure has become super, super costly now. Yeah. And gradually I'm seeing now this whole change from where farmers had said, it doesn't make sense to keep cows because the price of milk is this much and so much feed I have to buy and it doesn't make sense. Slowly it's again seems to be turning the other side, where some progressive farmers are saying, hey, you know what? I'm an organic farmer and there's no way I can do organic farming if I don't keep cows. The cost of buying compost and things like that is going to be too high, or the effort at preparing a lot of compost at the farm becomes very high. Labor costs have shot through the roof. Availability of labor is an issue, etc. So I am seeing another trend also, another counter trend. So have we kind of crossed over that, where it's like, okay, for sometimes it was difficult to keep cows because of how costly it was, but now that there is more and more increase in organic farming demand, people are looking for organically farmed produce. And then suddenly it's like, hey, you know what? If you want to do organic farming and if you want to be profitable as an organic farmer, you need to have cows. So are you seeing some sort of a shift there as well?
Definitely, yes. Especially with the educated, the new age farmers who are coming into the scene, they kind of understand the importance and the role that the cow plays. It's like uncheck grass, revamp with them, name it. Everything comes from the cow. Like everything, the entire foundation of what we do in the field comes from a cow. I'll give you an example. We were talking about grass, right? Where cows graze and things like that. If you know something, a grassland is always a place, in a village I'm talking about, a place where nothing can be grown. And that is what is given to the grassland for the cows. It's called, in Tamil, we call it Meikal Korambok. Basically, it means that's the area where the village cow will go graze. And that's a place nothing can be grown because of the rocky terrain and not good quality soil. And over a period of time, that becomes soil and that becomes a place that you can grow. But where it's usually grazed, is a place where nothing can grow other than grass. In fact, in my own farm, my soil is only 3 inches deep. I have rocks underneath. And every day I harvest 110 kilos of fodder in a 1.9 acre plot. 109 kilos of fodder from a 1.9 acre of plot. Right. And that's a lot. And the only reason I do it is because I take my farmyard manure, spread it, and use 90% for my own soil developments. And I can see the difference significantly. People normally say, urea is better for grass and this is better for grass, chemicals are better for the grass. No, in the long term, what I've seen is cow dung manure can do magic. It can improve the soil quality significantly. But then there is a caveat to that. The quality of the cow dung manure is defined by the quality of the feed that the cow gets. So if the diet of the cow is planned properly, like, this is some rule, right? 1/3 you give green fodder, the other 1/3 you give hay, which is dry fodder, and then agro waste like your rice bran, your dal ka outer shell, and peanut meal, right? And apart from that, also the mineral mixture and the salt. When the ratios are perfect, the manure that you make is amazing. Or if the cow is grazing in a forest land where there are different species and the cow will pick and choose and eat, the manure is amazing. These two cases, the manure is amazing. But if the cow is going to feed
So what
in,
you're saying, what you're saying, all farmyard manure is not equal, right? Just like that all organic food is not equal. A carrot being grown in really good soil is more nutritious for you than a carrot being grown in another organic farm, but where the soil is not as good, right? So similarly, you are saying that all farmyard manure is not equally good, and there can be a drastic difference based on what the cow has been fed.
Correct. If the cow is feeding, like, initially we used to graze cows in the forest, right? And when we graze the cows in the forest, the cow will pick the leaf based on the nutrient requirement. And the diet will be like holistic. It'll be amazing. And that manure always yielded the best result. Like, unfortunately, we can't graze cows in the forest anymore. I mean, logically, it makes a lot of sense because you don't want destroying forests. So now we plan the diet of a cow. And then when the diet is proper, when the cow gets all the nutrients that she requires, then the manure is going to be that much more richer. And that is going to give you better nutrient profile for your vegetables. It's not just organic. Only when the nutrient profile of the vegetable is good, that means the quality of the vegetable is that much better. That also is, I think people are slowly waking up to, that aspect as well right now. It's not just organic, but also the concentration of vitamin C and the zinc and the selenium and the copper in the vegetable has to be good.
Right. We are slowly understanding and starting to talk about nutrient density in our foods.
Correct.
And we are saying that it's not enough just to not use pesticides and chemical fertilizers and things like that, but you also need to build your soil. You need to have your zinc, you need to have your manganese, all in bioavailable forms. Your soil should have a lot of microbial activity so that these minerals can find its way from the soil into the
into the fruits, yes.
Into the fruits and vegetables, right? So basically what you are saying is that because cows are kind of like a very integral part of an organic farming system in your point of view, so what you feed the cows is going to directly impact that cow manure when it's used in a field, the produce that it actually creates, right? So it's interesting how all of these things are all like so interlinked together, right? So tell me something. A little bird told me that May Organic Farms, which is your farm, there's a stampede whenever your farmyard manure is ready and villagers really rush, and there's almost like an auction to get your farmyard manure, right? So
So I do circular economy, right? So I give my manure to the local villagers, and then I take the hay. So that
Mhm.
like the manure goes out and the hay comes back into my farm, where which I feed to the cows, right? So what we realized over a period of time was people do keep cows, but everybody has one or two cows. So there's no one person with enough manure to, let's say for a 10-acre property, a 10-acre farmland. So during just after the harvest, just before the sowing, in between they dose the field with farmyard manure, and then I have like 4 5 people coming and literally yelling at me saying that, they're related to me. I get the first preference. I gave you more hay last year. You should give me more manure this year. But I can see the trend. I'm like, why can't you have your own manure? They say the quality of the manure is not good because the village cows are grazing on plastic and dump yard and not being fed proper feed. The villagers have started realizing that it matters. What goes into the cow matters, right? And what comes out. And they're seeing a difference in the yield. And so there is this. In fact, right now, I told them, listen, you know what? I'm going to keep only a small amount. First come, first serve. Don't even ask me. Take it. I will give it to you for free. You don't need to pay for it. But make sure that hay from your farm comes to my farm. That's the only system I have. I don't sell it anymore. And I can see the difference. People are realizing the importance that, a properly run dairy farms can play in the village ecosystem. So I am supporting 7 farmers right now, and they're very happy. And the amount of urea that they're using has gone down significantly.
Got it.
And
So when you do this
I'm
barter,
doing my thing.
what is the ratio like? What is the ratio like when you do
Arey,
this barter? Like how much hay for?
we pick very there's no written number. So normally I do
Okay.
2 tractor loads for 1 tractor load of
Got
give or
it.
take.
Got it. Got it. Got it. And after doing all of that stuff, do you have farmyard manure left for your own use
Oh yes.
and for you to sell to others and things like that as well?
Yeah. We do. We keep so a farmyard manure. I think a lot of people who are listening for the first time, farmyard manure is you take cow dung, you store it in a place and then you turn it, but it takes 6 to 7 months for it to compost properly, and it generates a lot of heat, and that heat will kill all the pathogens in the manure and also kill all the seeds that may have fallen into it, and then decomposes, and all the nutrient is intact. Right, that is farmyard manure. I mean, just giving this thing. So, farmyard manure, I divided into 3 parts. A small part, I retail it. Very small part. I'm talking about 300, 400 kilos, I retail it. I use about 300 kilos a day on my own field. As I cut, every day I cut grass, and that particular small plot of land is covered with manure every day that we do. And then we keep 4 5 tons every year for sale to farm, I mean, for a barter system with the farmers. So we do the entire segregation, and that works.
Got it. So now this farmyard manure, let's talk a little bit about this because one of the things that we have seen a lot is a lot of farmers kind of make this mistake where not only do they get farmyard manure, which is not great quality, right, mixed with a lot of plastics and things like that, but they also end up buying farmyard manure which is not decomposed fully, right? So they take half decomposed stuff and it's just like it's become like dried cow dung but not decomposed cow dung, and they just go ahead and because they're in a hurry and there is an availability issue around it, etc. So they just go ahead and just put it, which is undecomposed, they put it into their fields, which actually creates a lot of problems. The weed seeds are still there in it. So as soon as you use the farmyard manure, suddenly your field is full of weeds. This is one problem that we see. The other big problem we see is as soon as you put farmyard manure, the bad quality, not fully decomposed one, suddenly there is a lot of root grubs, other sort of worms, insects which damage the plants, right? That's also something which comes up. And sometimes because it's not fully decomposed, it even creates like a nitrogen deficit in the soil
It uses
in the
the
initial
nitrogen
phases,
from the
and it
soil.
actually right. So it actually causes less nitrogen in the initial days. So we see some stunted growth coming in, right? And this is all related to the fact that there is more demand for farmyard manure than supply. So obviously the people who are having the cows, who are having access to the Govardhan, right? So
Yes.
like like Lord Krishna had lifted this pahad on his finger, right, which was called Govardhan. So Govardhan is basically, you can translate it literally saying Govar, cow dung, dhan, right, the riches of cow dung. essentially, right? So all the people are owning the riches of that cow dung now. They are like, okay, why should I wait for 6 months to go and fully decompose and make that farmyard manure? There is so much of demand. Let me sell it as soon as it's dry in 1 month. So this is something that we see which is going on. And many of these farmers are also just using that. So tell us a little bit about this process of making this.
I'll tell you something. Only somebody who's gotten into farming recently will get fooled by this. Right? People who've been in that, people, for whom farming is a way of life, I don't think they will get fooled by this, right? So that definitely, I've seen that happen, and I've seen that happen very consistently. Through, especially with new farmers, they will buy raw cow dung, which is dry, not composted. Once you put it into your cow, you're going to generate a lot of heat. It gets to 50 degrees inside. Right? That basically means you're going to burn your roots. You're going to leach your own nitrogen from the soil. You're going to create a whole bunch of, you have a rhino pieces running around the farm. And if you have coconut trees, game over for you. Right. It does more, it creates more problems than good. But if you are aware, if you know the smell, if you know how it feels, a properly decomposed state, the mature farmyard manure, then that mistake you can avoid. I would suggest if you are new to farming, please ask somebody who you trust to evaluate the farmyard manure. If not the case, I would say go buy from a very reputed organization. The best thing to do is have a relationship with the local farmers, create a circular economy so that you don't spend too much fuel transporting the farmers when you're from point A to point B. It should be within the ecosystem. That way, the carbon footprint is lower because, that's what we're fighting for, right? I mean, creating an environment which is more sustainable. You cannot call your farm sustainable and then buy your manure from Odisha and, Bihar and Haryana. But that works.
Okay, let's take a situation where, let's say I am a newbie farmer, right? I'm kind of really fed up of my corporate life, etc. And I decide to buy 2-3 acres. And I go away from Bangalore. There's no water here. Temperatures are generally becoming hot all throughout the year. So I've bought a couple of acres of land. Let's say 3 acres, right? So I've bought 3 acres of land, 150 kilometers from Bangalore, and I'm going to do homesteading there. I'm going to go sit there and, I'll work remotely. So I'll still continue my job. Maybe I'll pick up a consulting position, right? So I'll work from my farm and I'm going to grow my own vegetables and I'm going to first make food for myself and then some extra stuff I'm going to sell in the market. That's my goal, right? So my first goal is to not lose. I have some savings. So I don't want to dip into that savings and burn that off while trying to run my farm. So can you walk us through the economics? One is for a 3-4 acres farm, running farm. How many cows should I have? What sort of cows should I have? What should be my budget? How much would I need to spend in terms of for buying the cows? What is the best place to buy those cows? And how much would I end up spending per month on those cows, right? And how does it pay for itself in terms of the farmyard manure? If you can walk us through this economics, I think that will be very useful.
Okay, so what you described is a very utopian case, right? It never goes that way. It never goes that way. Okay, so a couple of reasons for that, and I will tell you how to go about it as well, right? First thing is, if you get into farming and if you're let's say the small Indian family where there's a husband, there's a wife, and there's a couple of small children, right? And you guys want to run the farm and you don't want to depend your savings, it's not possible. Because in India, farm was a family-run enterprise where 3 generations will be involved. The father, you, and your kid. Kid as early as 5, 6, they will start taking care of the chicken and the goat. Right. The father will take care of the plowing. The son will take care of all the heavy work, moving, the bull, the tractor, and everything. So this is how the entire ecosystem is built. So you can have a huge homestead, but making money out of it will take time. It's not going to happen overnight. You will depend your savings. You will have to burn through cash because 2 things will happen. Right? You will grow tomatoes. Right? In a season where the tomato prices will crash to 2 rupees a kilo on the local mandi. but your cost of creating those tomatoes will be, growing those tomatoes will be 15 to 20 rupees a kilo. Right. So that, you will face problems like this. So it's not just growing vegetables, but, and, having cows and having milk, but you also have to have a source of selling it profitably. So you have to address both ends of the problem, and you're not going to have your father, mother, you and your children work on the farm. You're going to employ laborers, and laborers are going to cost you money. All these things have to be taken into account before you take the first step. I would suggest some rules. If you're buying a cow, buy it from a 25-kilometer radius from where your farm is located. The reason being, those cows will be generally adapted to the water, the soil, the environmental conditions, your heat, your monsoon. Okay. And make sure that you milk the cow at least 3 times or 4 times before you make the full treatment. Right. Because they don't change. They will not milk the cow for 2 days. And when you suddenly milk the cow, she will produce 20 liters of milk. And she comes back into your farm, she will produce 2 liters of milk. Right. No, it happened to me. I was like, what? So basically, milk the cow 3-4 times, what to make the full payment, buy within a 25-kilometer, not 50-kilometer, give it, next 50-kilometer radius, within the same, traumatic zone, I would say, buy some there. Normally, a cow, 6 liter per day cow, or 6 liter yield, milk yield per day cow will cost you anywhere between 30 to 40,000 rupees. So don't spend too much money. Understand the local market. Go work in a dairy farm before you buy your first cow. Work in a dairy farm for 6 months before you buy your first cow. Because when you buy a cow, there are a lot of things that you have to keep in mind. Is the cow vaccinated? Because, once you buy the cow, next month might be the foot and mouth disease season. So she might get affected. Should I buy the cow during the summer season or during the monsoon season to have flooding in that area? Because normally people will sell off their cow during summer season because there is no hay and there is no grass. Right? You will get a cow, and then you will quickly realize that hay and grass is very expensive. How am I going to manage? Right. What I would suggest is go through an entire season understanding how a dairy farm works before you get an animal. Getting an animal is different from planting a tomato or a watermelon because it's an animal. Right. The needs are every day. It has to be met 30 times a day. The feed, the watering has to be done. For a tomato plant, if you forget to water one day, it's perfectly all right. The plant will recover. Right. If there's not enough nutrient in the soil, the plant will recover. She will probably produce less of fruits. You can't do that to an animal. Right. You need to understand the entire cycle. Like, when the cow will come to heat, when she gives birth, what are the precautions that you have to take. You need a lot of SNO knowledge, like, the local knowledge. Either you go through the entire cycle of learning to get it, or you hire somebody who you trust. Because there's another problem. A lot of absentee farmers, right? That's what I call them, absentee farmers, people who live somewhere else and farms. So they trust the local person, the farm manager, who's normally a person from the village. There is a gap in the communication. There's a gap in the expectation from your side and the farmer, the manager's side, right? It creates a lot of troubles. And you kind of, you're disillusioned by the entire dairy farming and the farming in general. So what I would suggest is go through a learning curve without spending money. Go through a learning curve in a farm which is already established. Right? Because why will you? The cost is too much. Because, to feed a cow, I spend quite a bit of money just to feed my cows. Some months I don't even make that much. The money I spent on my feed, I don't make that. Because that month there would have been an extra spend. So you need to have all these contingencies.
How much do you need to spend? How much do you need to spend on the upkeep of a cow per month?
Per cow, I would say keep 250 rupees a day.
Okay. So this you're talking about desi cows, not the Jersey, Holstein, all of those, but desi cows.
No, right? Desi cows. It's 250 rupees a day per cow.
250 rupees, it's basically the overall feed cost, right? Including green feed and dry feed.
Yes.
Okay.
I'm not talking about the
7,500. Sure. Okay. So 7,500 rupees per month approximately for basically the feed per cow. And then
not
there are
the feed,
the labor
of the cow. No, upkeep of the cow, not just the feed. Everything, include everything in it.
Okay, okay,
Your
okay,
contingencies in terms of your veterinary care or everything. Makes
okay,
the entire
okay.
thing. Your breeding costs.
Got it.
Your milking costs, everything.
Got it. Got it. Got it. So the only thing is it does not include the labor cost, basically.
Yes, the one
Right?
labor that you have to keep, it doesn't include.
Okay. 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 So that labor, of course, you can kind of assume that that labor will take care of the cows and it will also contribute to other stuff at the farm. How much cow dung does a cow produce in a month? So I spent 7,500. How much cow dung do I get in return?
So a cow produces anywhere between 10 to 20 kilos of dung a day.
Okay. Okay.
And that depends
So
on the breed
let's
and
say about
size.
500. Okay. So on an average, 500 kg of cow dung per month,
Yes.
approximately. Okay. Now this cow dung, once you decompose, how much cow dung manure comes out of 500 kg of cow dung?
See, this exact number I don't know. I can ballpark it for you, but this is not a very scientific answer because we got different results at different times. So I do not know the science behind it. But you can expect about 300 kilos.
Okay. So 300 kilos of farmyard manure, right? Is essentially what you're getting out of that. Now, for 300 kilo of farmyard manure, I mean, in general, high quality farmyard manure, how much does it sell for in your area right now? Typically,
A kilo will go for no packing, no processing. A kilo will go for 10 to 15 rupees a kilo.
okay. So even if it's loaded in a tractor and bought by a farmer, it's about that 10 to 15 rupees per kilo, right? Okay. So basically then you have spent 300 rupees, you created 300 kg of farmyard manure, which itself is 4,500 rupees worth of farmyard manure, right? Out of your 7,500 that you spent, right? So 1,500 is just the farmyard manure and high quality, which you're absolutely assured of, guaranteed of how it is. Now comes the milk part of it that you can get, which you can, even if you use it for your family, and if you're using it you're not selling it. So let's take the notional value of milk, that if I had to buy milk from the market, of course, milk from the market is not as healthy as what you would get from your own cow, right? But basically, you can assume that, like, even if you get, so 3,000 rupees was the gap between the amount of farmyard manure that I got from the cow and the spend on that cow per month, right? So 3,000 rupees. Now, will you get 3,000 rupees of milk worth from that cow per month at, let's say, 40 rupees per liter, which means about 89 liters? Probably yes, right?
Not
on an
throughout the
average.
season.
Of course, there is that
On an
whole,
average, yes.
not throughout the season, all of that,
Yeah.
right? But so it actually turns out that basically you kind of break even in terms of the farmyard manure cost, actually a little better than break even, because A2 milk is 100 rupees per liter, right? So, but I'm not even considering that. I'm saying that, okay, it's just regular milk.
Sorry, hold on. The farmer doesn't get the 100.
Correct.
So
Correct.
we always calculate what the
Correct.
farmer gets. The farmer gets 30 rupees a liter, right? And again, the manure,
No, actually, I'm calculating from the fact. Right. No, I'm calculating from the fact that if I'm a weekend farmer, absentee farmer, or relocating and doing that, and if I have to maintain a nice healthy lifestyle, right? I have to grow food. For that food, I need farmyard manure. That farmyard manure, I'm getting like 4,500 rupees worth of farmyard manure per month from this cow, right? From one cow. And if I get 3,000 rupees worth of milk for my own personal consumption, right? And for my own consumption, if I had to buy milk, I would have, and if I had to buy A2 milk, I would have actually paid 100 rupees per liter, right? Because I would buy A2 milk from somewhere. Instead of that, if I have that cow and if I'm making milk or ghee or whatever. So actually looks like that break even certainly happens. In fact, there is probably an additional delta, because you will probably get averaged out over the year.
Yourself. If you maintain the cow yourself, because you still haven't taken the labor cost.
Correct. So basically, let's assume is it okay to assume like averaged across the year, given that some period the cow is going to be in heat, etc. So basically 60 liters per month, approximately, I should be able to get from the cow
Yes.
in terms of milk.
Yes. If you
right?
if you have a
So
desi
that's
cow,
from if
60 rupees, 60 liters you will get easily. 60,
60 liters,
60 to
which means
70.
that if I had to buy that, if I had to buy that milk from the market, it would have cost me 6,000 rupees. To get 60
Correct.
liters of milk, it would have cost me 6,000 rupees, right? So
Correct.
6,000 rupees I'm getting from that on a per month basis. So I'm getting 4,500 of Farmyard manure. I'm getting 6,000 of very good quality Farmyard manure. I'm getting 6,000 rupees worth of milk. Very good quality milk because it's my cow. I'm feeding it all of this stuff, right? So that's 10,500 rupees of stuff that I'm getting, right? Sorry, I'm taking this very objectively and very, in a very
No.
reductionist way, right?
I have something to say to this, but yeah, go on.
Yes. Now, of course, there's a labor, but there is this other thing that I'm going to get, which is that I'm going to get a calf out of that cow as well. And that calf, if I sell that calf, for example, right? One is, okay, that calf stays with me and it becomes another delta where from each cow I'm getting some economic value out of it. Or if I sell that calf, how much would I get from selling that calf?
Okay. Comes to this one more thing. So you have a calf, right? That's what I was laughing at. You have a calf when the cow is milking, right? When I gave you the number, I wasn't calculating the milking part. So now the milking comes into the picture. That means you have a calf. The calf after the third month has to be fed. So that will cost you, let's say, 100, 150, 100 rupees a day. Right? It's a small calf, 100 rupees a day. Right? That
Okay.
as he or she grows, it will go to 150 to 200 a day. Right? You can sell a calf only after 1 point, a year and a half, because the calf will stop milking at 1 year, 10 months, and then but the calf has to also grow a little bit, and it depends on what you are selling it for. Right? In India, people buy, I sell my bull primarily for breeding purposes, because Rambo has a very proven history of breeding. So people pick up Rambo's calf, the males, and males are in demand for me. Surprisingly, female cow, everybody wants, whoever is seeing Rambo wants to pick up his offspring, the male offspring, right? So
Interesting.
if your quality of your bull is not good, then they pick it up for different reasons. It could be for meat, it could be for loving, it could be for any of the purposes. And again, if you have a female calf, they will pick it up for, it depends on who you sell it to. Again, normally a female calf will go for, if the quality of your milk is good, they will pick it up. So the average price of a 1.5-year-old calf will be around 25, 20 if the quality of the parent stock is good.
Got
Right?
it.
If the quality of the
Got it.
parent stock is
So-
poor, then you're looking at 7,000
Got
to
it.
8,000.
Got it. So shall I tell this as a kind of like a thumb rule? Is it fair to say that basically your cow operations break even and you make the profit from the calf? And how much profit you make depends on the quality of the calf and the progeny. Is that a
Yes.
fair way to say it?
That's very
Okay,
accurate.
okay.
That's very accurate.
Got it. Got it. Got
And
it.
one more thing
Awesome.
is the
Cool.
calculation
Okay.
that you just did. Hold on, I have another point to make. The calculation that you did is, I think, very similar to the calculation that they did, when they were growing, making the hybrid paddy. They forgot about everything else. They said, like, I am going to grow this paddy in 110 days.
I know.
and
I know. That is why I was
only
also. That's why both of us were smiling while I was doing that calculation, because it was like, we know how we arrived at the current shit.
Yeah.
Because everybody was making these sort of calculations in our
These
head
kind of
at an isolation.
this
Looking
is,
at,
everything is done in silo.
Right,
I
right.
will grow paddy and I will look
Right.
at only the nutrient content of the paddy, not the hay, not the stock. Hey, if I look at the cow,
Right,
if I
right,
want to
right,
create a
right.
breed, if I want to create a specialized breed, I will not worry about what they eat. I will worry about how much milk it produces.
Correct.
We will not worry about which environment
Correct,
the animal
correct.
is going to be in. So there's a lot of silos in India which the information
Correct.
is not shared, and that becomes a problem for us.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
And for example, just look at it even from the cow urine perspective itself. Urine is another amazing output from cows, which
Right.
is used extensively in farming, right? Right
Correct.
from using cow urine to create your kashayams, all sorts of kashayams, all sort of botanical extracts, which you use as pest repellents, to using cow urine in your bijamruta, creating seed treatment solutions for better
Correct.
germination rate, right? To using just taking cow urine, diluting it, and just spraying it if your plants need a quick nitrogen boost. All of these things are there, which again, if you start putting economic value to that, then you start seeing, okay, it's a no-brainer to keep a cow if you're going to become a organic farmer,
Correct.
right? So I think so you're absolutely right that when I was calculating, I was doing things exactly the way which has brought us to the current situation, which is in terms of isolation, etc. But in general, I mean, what I have realized over after talking to several many farmers over the years, etc., is that people go through these two phases, right? First phase, they are like, it's very difficult to keep cows. So I'm not going to keep cows. I'm going to buy cow dung from another farmer. I'm going to buy panchagavya from the market. I'm going to buy compost and all this stuff. It's very overwhelming to try and keep a cow. They do it for some years and then they realize, was it actually makes a lot of sense to keep that cow. Yes, it's a lot of effort, but who said organic farming was easy? I mean, when you decide to become an organic farmer, you kind of say that, yeah, there is going to be effort, there is going to be learning. I am going to kind of apprentice at various places, going to get a whole of hang of all of these things, and then I'm going to do it. So now I have begun to believe, and this is my personal belief, is that you can't have an organic farm unless you have livestock in it, and especially cows, right? In the way small organic farms, how we do it in India, right? It's almost a mandatory thing, in my opinion, right? Of course, there'll be differences of opinion there. And okay. So now one quick plug here, which is that, so Praveen is running a course on Farmizen Academy, which is basically primarily focused on teaching people how to handle livestock, especially cows, in as part of your organic farm that you're setting up. We have a larger program where we talk about, which is the organic farming 12-week organic farming boot camp, where we kind of tell people how to become an organic farmer, how to start making some profits, and we get into the science, practice, and business of organic farming. And this course is kind of like an add-on to that, where you are focused on, okay, you have learned how to grow stuff, you have some idea of how you're going to sell stuff, but how do I handle these cows? I decide that I'm going to buy 2 or 3 cows for my 3-4 acre farm. How do I actually manage that cows? So Praveen is taking a course on that. Plug over. Praveen, one more quick question is, in terms of like your personal journey, right? I know that it's very interesting. It's very it's very colorful and strange as well. So can you just walk us through that whole journey? How did this whole thing happen?
So, okay, I'm gonna again, like, you just start saying this, okay? Somewhere really early in life, I realized the entire career, the concept of career is a stand. Like, the 9 to 5, the career, the concept of building one's career is a sham. Somewhere in my early childhood, I think I figured that out, and that is
what do you mean by that? Why do you say that? Why do you say that it's a scam?
Because that's how you kind of follow the narrative of doing the same thing over and over and over again without giving room for your own self to explore and find out who you are. You know, a lot of people you will see, like, I have nothing. There's nothing wrong in doing a honest labor, right? But there is also no room for you to find out who you are. All right, so there is no balance. If you go to a job and then you end up buying a house and then you have to pay the housing loan and then the car loan and then the EMIs for me.
And the next 30 years of your life are gone. In next 30 years of your life are gone just doing that, right?
And then somebody like this will come on a podcast and say, listen, I need to start a fast. What do I do now? And they're like 15, 16. So that becomes a problem. So I think I figured that part out, right? And then so what I decided was I had two big interests in life. One is education, working with children, and the other one was working with animals. Wildlife is what I initially did. So I worked with two different organizations. I actually didn't do one thing straight. I juggled between these two. I worked in as an education consultant for an education startup. Fantastic job. I traveled across India, traveled across the Middle East and parts of Southeast Asia, working with school children, underprivileged, where I could learn more than teach anything. Is that, there are a lot of knowledge which is stored within our villages, which we kind of, don't take it seriously. We always take it seriously. Somebody comes from IIT, IIM and speak. But my the Anna who runs my farm, Kodindam Anna and Shekhar Anna, they have more knowledge than any veterinary doctor I have seen when it comes to taking care of animals. So I realized, traveling to different villages in India and across this part of the world, that there's a lot of knowledge which is at the village level. Okay, first thing, that's something which was very important and a turning point in my own life. Second thing is I worked with wildlife conservation with two different organizations. Again, while working in the forest, I realized there's so much knowledge in the forest. People living in the forest, in the periphery of the forest, the tribals especially. I work with 3 distinct tribal community groups in India. And again, there was so much knowledge which is again getting lost. Right. For me, I wanted to set up a farm where I can select as much knowledge as possible and then run a traditional farm. That is where I found. Right. So I did all these things so that I can learn a lot, and I worked in a tribal dairy farm where there is a mandi where there will be about 300, 400 cows grazing in the forest. I've traveled with them for a couple of weeks. Oh, I understand how that works. I worked in a dairy farm which had like 10 cows, different experiences. But what I wanted to do personally was become a farmer and then create a model where we can show a small farm can be sustainable. And that is where all this, the entire journey was built around this. I want to build a small farm and prove that it's sustainable because small farms inherently aren't. There will be more farms starting and flourishing than surviving. And that is unfortunately the reality. And there were two reasons. I'm going to, add. I know you asked a very limited question, but I'm going to, extend from the answer itself. Is one thing which I've realized was unless I was small farmer, I make value added product, I cannot survive. If I sell tomatoes, I will get 2 rupees a kilo as profit. If I sell sun-dried tomatoes, I have better profit. If I sell marinara sauce, I have better profits. Right? I don't sell ghee. I make ghee. And I make, and even the ghee has to be artisanal, right? I make slow cooked bologna, and I follow traditional practices where I bring in technology also into it, right? And that ghee is what I want to sell to my customer, and I actually don't charge a premium. I charge, the cost of production, and I sell it. And of course, how you pointed out, when you reach the conclusion, calf is where actually you make a dairy farm makes money. I sell my calf, and I make sure my parent stock is healthy and good. So my cars will go for a better price. And if there is a demand, people book my cars. One year ahead they book my cars. And I can ask the price I want because I know my cars are good because I have a track record. Right, the data is maintained. If as a farmer, if I have to the place where I reached is because of all these small things I've done over these years, working in villages, working with children, working with wildlife, and then working with tribal communities and tribal settlements. All these things brought me here where I started a dairy farm. I know the story is a little all over the place, but yeah, that is what it is.
Cool. So something. Let's go a little weird. So I have been looking at Instagram and seeing this every day because I've been looking into cows and stuff. So this Punganur breed, right? It's popping up on my Instagram feed every day. These tiny little cows, this size, and I'm getting so tempted to keep one at my home in Bangalore. Would you recommend that? Would you strongly advise against it? I mean, I hope my wife is not listening to this podcast because she'll be very angry if she hears about my plans. But
your wife asked you not to get another dog. She never said anything about the cow. So you're still in the
correct.
All right. So the Punganur Kute is again a traditional, very old breed of cow actually from the Punganur area in Andhra Pradesh, if I'm correct. And you do have two types of short breeds of cows in India. They are difficult to keep, right? Because you can't see one cow in isolation. Cows are, social animals. So you will end up having soup, right? Or silly, and then, you obviously cross the threshold of keeping one cow and then they cannot walk on, cows are ungulates. They have hooves, right? Hooves cannot walk on tiled surfaces and hard surfaces throughout. They need rough surface. They need earth to walk on. Otherwise, they'll have a lot of problems, with their hip, with their feet, with their ankles, right? So if you want to keep it in a house, make sure you have your green fodder, your dry fodder, and your mineral mixture and everything in place. Food has to be in place. Second thing is you need to have a place where they can walk, earth where they can walk on, a garden area. Right, but if they do walk on garden area, they will destroy it because the cows, the hooves normally destroy your grass. If they keep walking, grass will not grow on it. So you have to be careful.
You can't have well manicured. You can't have a well manicured garden and cows.
No, you can't.
Right? You basically have a nice, very good vegetative patch, but you can't have a lawn and then have Punganur cows.
You can't have a lawn. And cows are in a way, a very fragile animal because they fall sick and you have to act very quickly to take care of them. So you cannot have an absentee, farmer situation where, they're sick for 3 days, they won't survive. You have to act very quickly. If a cow falls sick today, he or she has to be treated properly the same day. The veterinary care, you should have good veterinary care. If you're in a city, you need to have veterinary care, a doctor who knows cows and not cats and dogs. Because they're two different again.
Right. Okay. I think
I'm
one
sorry
final
to bust the bubble,
question.
man.
I know.
I'm sorry to
I know. You can see I'm already sulking.
No, I know the cat face. Yeah.
So, one final question from my side, which is that I've strongly begun to believe that not just cows, actually. I mean, you need to have animals in a farm. Only that makes the farm whole. Like, I strongly subscribe to the notion that biodynamics has, right? Biodynamics says that a farm is composed of the land, plants, the humans, and the animals, and the spirit of the place, right? All these things together is what a balanced farm is all about. And if you don't have any of them, if one of that is disbalanced, right? At that point of time, you don't really have a nicely balanced farm, which is why we often see, right, that if the owner of the farm does not visit the farm often enough, a lot of times it does not work out well. You go to the farm every weekend, suddenly there is some magic which is happening, right? So all of these elements need to be in balance. So cows are, of course, one animal, but one is what other animals should farms keep? Small farms, I'm talking about these 3-4 acre farms. What other animals should you keep? And is there a progression there that first keep these animals and then go to these other animals? Like start with hens first, for example, then get a little more familiar with keeping. How do you think about that?
See, the easiest to keep is chicken, right? Any of the poultry birds. You can keep turkey, you can keep ducks, you can keep chicken based on your, again, the purpose. Like if you're doing it commercially, you need to have a source to sell it. But if you're just keeping for the upkeep of your land, you can plan it and you can keep. But then again, if you keep chickens, they will eat your vegetable patch. Like you have to plan it in such a way that you protect the chicken and the vegetable patch. Right. So that is the easiest because they very little maintenance, especially if you buy one of those.
They won't damage any fruit plants, right? So I think what you can do is if you have a fruit orchard area of your farm, you can probably keep the chicken coop near that, right?
Yes, you can keep. And even if they do damage, the damage is very limited. If it's a fully grown tree, the damage is very limited. But the advantage of keeping it is they keep tilling the soil for you constantly. They keep digging up the soil. The aeration is constantly happening, and that's a beautiful thing, right? So easiest any of the birds you can keep turkey, chicken, duck, guinea fowl, any of these birds. They work really well. But you also have to be mindful of where you're keeping it and how you're keeping it so that one doesn't damage the other. Right. And you also have to protection from predators like your mongoose and your jungle cats and things like that, especially if you're in a slightly forested area. Snakes also. And then you can move to sheep and goat. Sheep is easier. Goat is slightly more difficult because they're smaller animals. If there's an emergency, you can carry in a bike or a car to the nearest veterinary clinic, right? It's easier to manage. And since they're smaller, the shelter, protecting them from the environment, all that becomes much more simpler and easier. And there's less of fear factor if you're new to animals. Always huge. And and a goat is smaller, so it's easier to manage as a newbie farmer, as a somebody who's new to the entire farming space. If you're comfortable all this, and then you can move on to the stuff. This is the order I would suggest. But if your farm is established and you want to immediately, get into working on the farmyard manure, cow is the way to go. Although goat and sheep manure is nutritionally slightly higher than farmyard manure. Then again, it depends on what goes into them. That also matters.
Right. Good. Awesome. So this has been great. Is there anything else that you wanted to talk about, Praveen, which I didn't ask you about? Some fun stuff.
I think we pretty much spoke about everything that we've been talking about this for over a year now, right? This podcast is a collection of all our conversations for over a year right now. One thing which I would say is, before you make a judgment on a dairy farm or the role of a dairy farm or cows, especially in the ecosystem, I think the government of India needs to do that. They need to look at the larger picture. They need to look at the role that individual components play, the players the role that each the cow plays, the farmer, dairy farmer plays, paddy farmer plays, and the vegetable farmer plays in the entire ecosystem, and find out where we stand. Because there's a lot of misinformation going on, about cows are bad for the environment and they destroy the planet and things like that. But in reality, you and me, we know that the role the cow plays in our farm is essential. I mean, it's like the bedrock of organic farming, if I can say that. Right. There should be
Correct. It's
information
one
and
of those
data.
pieces which you cannot take it away. I mean, for
Yeah.
example, like earthworms. Earthworms, like getting earthworms activated without cow dung being present in that soil is so much more difficult, right? As
Correct.
soon as you put cow dung, as soon as you put Jivamrita, etc., you suddenly see magic. I
Magic
don't know where
happens.
these earthworms were hiding. They've suddenly come, right? So, like, I
I
absolutely
think
agree
there's
that
a
it's like
lot
a
of
irreplaceable
misinformation.
piece.
There's a lot of misinformation. I think
Hmm.
there should be clarity from the Indian context. Indian context is very different from the West, very different from what happens in the Europe and the US. Right? So there should be more study in
Right.
this space. Second thing is,
Right.
if you want to have cows, if you want to have dairy, if you want to keep animals, see, you need to understand growing is one part, selling is the other part. So you need to have a balance of understanding both. You cannot have one ready and start and then figure out the other one. You need to understand both ends of the spectrum, growing and selling. So these need to be strong. For instance, we make ghee. We make ghee knowing that, okay, these are the people who are going to buy from us. So if I have excess ghee, it will go to Farmizen. I'll talk to Shameek and Shameek will sell it on his portal. If there is sufficient ghee, then this is the process that we will follow. We created that entire supply chain system for ourselves, and I can go ahead and make ghee. If I don't have that, I will make ghee and I will be sitting and wondering how to sell it. And selling is stuff. That's it.
Right.
And you
And I
play a
think
very
you also,
important role. You play a very
I
important
think you
role
also
in
made a
helping our
very
small farmers.
right.
Go,
Right.
go, you finish.
So I think there's also one very important point that you made, which is that try to get cattle from like the breeds which are thrive within a 25-kilometer radius from where you are, because that's when you are going to get really, really resilient cattle suitable for your agroclimatic zone, right? This is a very
Correct.
important point, I feel. Like the fact of the matter is, India has many, many agroclimatic zones, and we have so many different varieties of these native breeds, right? So this is making a direct case for why it's very important and critical to save all of these native breeds, to save their gene pool as well, right? Because there is no one solution fits all. You can't say that, okay, you know what, Thaparkar is an awesome breed. It's really good. So we are going to use this Thaparkar and we are going to put Thaparkar all across India. That's not the right way, probably, right? The right way is that this is the cow which is really resilient and is suitable for our region. That breed, that gene pool needs to be pure, right? And I think finally, after today's conversation, I have realized that saving native cows or saving these breeds and keeping those gene pools alive is not just a, nice to do thing. Okay, we are keeping this diversity. It's important
You're
for our
not
food system. It's
eradicating, you're
critical.
protecting your food. You're protecting your securing your food. It's not a charitable process at all. You are doing that for a very selfish
Correct.
need. I need to have food security, and I need a food security which is devoid of carcinogens. You have to put it that way. Without chemicals in my food. That means then I have to support my native cows.
And native cows means not just not native to India, but native to my area, right? If I am part of North Karnataka, then those breeds which grow really well in North Karnataka, those need to be protected, those need to be propagated, there need to be those pure breeds and not just cross breeds, right? So yeah, because without that, again, there's suddenly a tear in the fabric, and we know that when there's a tear in a fabric, things unravel pretty fast, right? So awesome. This was such a exciting conversation. I hope listeners, you have all learned something out of this. Thank you so much, Praveen.
Pleasure is all mine. So a little bit of a thing. So our work, if you want to find online, you will be able to find it on Instagram and May Organic Farms. And all the work that we do, all the knowledge that we gain from working every day with cows, we kind of record it and put them there. So it's available online on May Organic Farms in Instagram.
Right. I'm going to put a comment so look at the first comment under the video where you can find their Instagram link, etc. as well, and probably a link to Farmers and Academy. with the course and stuff
Yes,
like that.
with the course.
Awesome, Praveen. Okay, I'm going to let you go now. Take
Yeah.
care. Thank you so much.
It was a good fun. Yeah, it was a good conversation. Thank you. Bye.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Hope you enjoyed the Farmizen show, where we uncovered the delicious interplay between food, farming, and wellness, shaping a brighter, healthier tomorrow. Better for farmers, better for the planet, better for you.